I'm Richard Friedman, and welcome to my video cartoon for August 25th, 2025. Here, first of all, we have Richard's Trump 2019 UN address against socialism. That's a flashback, and vision watching Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick now justify a U.S. Intel 10% equity exchange for funds already allocated to it from the Biden-era CHIPS Act. So what's happened here is that the Trump administration is now saying to Intel that, sure, you can have what the Biden CHIPS Act gave you back then during that era, but you can't have the full amount. You have to give up 10%. In other words, we'll take 10% of your stock, and then you can get the amount that you allocated to. So that they basically have to pay a toll to get. The Intel chips manufacturer has to pay a toll of 10% of their equity to get what was allocated to them from the Biden administration CHIPS Act. Okay, so that's what it comes down to, a 10% equity toll. Now, what happens here is, in a social media post, Lutnick wrote, following the deal, this historic agreement strengthens U.S. leadership in semiconductors, which is a fingernail-sized device. It's a very small thing here. We're talking about it's like this. It's like the size of you have to see it through a microscope almost. And these are highly technical things that are very, very complicated to produce. It's not like you go in to manufacture like you're going to manufacture, say, something like a baseball bat or a basketball. This is a highly complex thing, and what they're saying here is that this is going to enable the United States to be more independent of Taiwan, and he says that Taiwan is far away from us and close to China, and that makes us very. If we ever he's basically implying that we don't feel secure at this point with that setup, and we want to develop our own semiconductors, the microchips. And these microchips have been a revolutionary force. We got the high-definition TVs, we got the cell phones in our defense apparatus, with all these things we have to track. All that is wiped out without these semiconductors, these microchips. And it's very, very, I read up on it, and I understand a little bit about it, basically, and it's a highly complex thing. You have millions of microscopic transistors inside the chip. And you have to, can you imagine the precision it takes to put one of these things together like that? And, I remember as a kid, the transistor radio came out and everything, wow, those transistor radios. And we couldn't live without those transistor radios. And everybody's walking around and listening to the transistor radio. And it was like a miracle. Now today, the transistor is like the grandfather of the microchip, because it's all these micro transmitters, tiny things that are billions of them put together to make this, in good part, to make this chip. And you can imagine the precision it takes. So what I'm saying here is that what's going on here is this. Now, the first off is that President Trump here is going to, I'm going to do a flashback because of the fact that this is the first time that the U.S. government has ever done anything like this as far as taking equity position since when in the Great Recession, when General Motors went into bankruptcy, Chapter 11, the government gave them millions and billions of dollars, and in return, what happened was that they took an equity position there. The government, I think, it was a high percentage that they took, to provide them with this equity, this money. The government provided a bailout to General Motors to keep on going, you see. And what happened was that General Motors eventually rebounded, and they again, that was all dealt back, and it went back to General Motors. We don't know what's going to happen here, and the thing about it is that the money, that the equity that the government got, helped General Motors. They gave them like billions of dollars to keep going. Here, it's just the opposite, where the Trump administration is taking away money that was allocated to Intel, and they're saying, okay, like I said, you got to pay this toll of 10% of your equity goes to the U.S. government. So it's the exact opposite almost, in a way. So I'm saying here is that this is, in my opinion, I'm going to say this, is that it's a step towards socialism. You see, when you have the government getting involved in corporations, you can't. It's undeniable that it's a step towards socialism. So here is President Trump back on September 24th of 2019, speaking at a UN General Assembly against socialism. So this was way back during his first administration. You see, there he is, and he's saying, one of the most serious challenges our country faces, here it is, President Trump, September 24th, speaking at UN General Assembly against socialism. One of the most serious challenges our countries face is the specter of socialism. It's the wrecker of nations and destroyer of societies. Events in Venezuela remind us that socialism and communism are not about justice. They are not about equality. They are not about lifting up the poor. And they are certainly not about the good of the nation. Socialism and communism are about one thing only: power for the ruling class. And that's what President Trump said in his first term at the UN General Assembly, speaking against socialism on September 24th, 2019. There it was. And this symbol here symbolizes, this is a map of the world, and these things around here are olive branches that symbolize peace. The olive branch, in this case here, that they drew this emblem of the United Nations around the circumference of the circle, symbolizes peace throughout the world, the olive branch. And that's what that's supposed to mean. And this is a map of the world, and that's how it went here. And that was President Donald Trump back in 2019, talking against socialism, which now it could be argued that he's taken a step in that direction. So I wanted to show that. Okay. Now, the next thing here is this. Now, President Trump is watching his Secretary of Commerce here, Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick, amid him watching Lutnick, and this is word for word, basically for what Lutnick said, and President Trump is reacting to that here, watching him, and here is that, okay? And here goes Lutnick. For national security, we need to make our own chips here. We cannot rely on Taiwan, which is 9,500 miles away from us, and only 80 miles away from China. Okay, the key part of our initiative is to make leading edge chips here. The Biden administration's CHIPS Act was just a giveaway to rich companies. We talk about a giveaway to rich companies. Look at the $4 trillion tax break. They reinstated the tax cut they gave to the corporations and the rich individuals in this country. They reinstated that at the price of going $4 trillion more into debt. So you're not in a position to talk about giveaways when you're talking under those circumstances with that history, in my opinion. Okay, I'm giving you my opinion here. I don't often do that, but I'd be remiss if I didn't bring that up, because he did bring up the fact that he talked about rich companies. This was charity to rich companies, what the Biden administration had done with the CHIPS Act here. And that was done with Intel to get them motivated to make more chips and to invest more money in developing these microchips, these advanced microchips. Okay, the key part is to make leading edge chips here. The Biden administration Chips Act was just a giveaway to rich companies. Donald Trump says, hey, look, let's turn 10% of Biden's giveaway to Intel into equity for the American taxpayer. That is what Donald Trump is. And it is obviously the right move to make. The U.S. will have no right, and the U.S. will have no rights to govern Intel. This is all for the American people. You see? So I don't see how it's going to make them more. What if they have no influence and it's just a 10% equity they have? I don't understand how that stimulates Intel to make better and more these microchips. I don't understand that, the connection there. He never went into explaining that. He just says this is because we want them to do that, but he doesn't explain how this would do that. So I just leave that up to your thought. Okay, now President Trump here responds to Lutnick, and he's saying here, Lutnick gets it. Lutnick gets it. For the American people, this fantastic equity deal is a chips liberation day from Taiwan. Truly a great deal for America that will provide a financial return to taxpayers. Who knows? It may even lower taxes once they get those beautiful leading edge chips going. So once they get those leading chips going and going out and selling and getting them into our defense, and the defense buying them and the companies buying them, and we're less dependent on Taiwan, then the taxpayers are going to get a great deal here, because some of that investment will trickle down to them, basically, from their 10% equity, which will rise in value. The stocks already have gone up, and they'll go up even further. So that gives the American people more equity, more value for their dollar than just giving away what the Biden administration had promised them in a lump sum. That toll, again, not paying. There was no toll attached to the Biden administration's attempt to motivate them to make more and better chips. Okay. Who knows? It may even lower taxes once they get those beautiful leading edge chips going. And after meeting with Intel CEO Lip Bhutan and his agreeing to this 10% equity deal, I can truly say his great success and rise is an amazing story. It's an amazing story. And equal to the greatest Secretary of Commerce, Lutnick here, the greatest Secretary of Commerce in the history of the United States, Secretary Lutnick here. Okay, he's raising up his hand to Lutnick there, and congratulating him on working this deal through. There he is. Okay, and that was that. Now here, basically, we have here, again, I did this here, and this is basically President Trump's fantasy here of basically of developing a Intel headquarters next to the White House. So in doing, he has this. It could be a fantasy because to go along with the ballroom that he's building back there, they could throw dances for all the executives who are doing well, and they approve of, and they could be invited to dinner dances and stuff. So I thought President Trump might think of, now he has this 10% equity. He might want to, and they say they have no control. They have no control over it. So President Trump might want to get cozy here in a way, having the headquarters right next to them, would be, might be he could drop in, say, hey, how you doing? You want to play some golf? You want to go to dinner party at a dinner and dancing party at the ballroom tonight? So this would be a way to get friendly with some of the Intel people. So I drew this, the White House here, and this would be President Trump's fantasy in terms of having the Intel headquarters built next to the White House in Washington, D.C. And there's the White House, and there is the future headquarters of Intel in Trump's imagination. Okay, so that was that. Okay, so I want to thank you folks for watching my video this afternoon. God bless you. Hang in there, and I'll see you next time. Take care, folks. Bye.